All right, hey guys, what's up? This is Ryan from Ethereal Metal Webzine, and I'm here today with Steve Cobucci of Ohio's very own Wolves at the Gate. Thanks very much for joining us today, Steve. How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good, doing pretty well, thanks. First, I'd like to just start off by asking how you, the band, your family, and friends are all doing these last 2.5 years with all the uncertainty of the pandemic and everything.
Yeah, thankfully, yeah, I'm doing well. My family's doing well, and yeah, all my friends, basically everybody I know got COVID, but it didn't have any long-term effects, so that was good news. So
No, that's awesome to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. So, having started in 2008, the band has seen an incredible journey. From the beginning with the demo songs like Pulled from the Deep and My Ransom Soul, which, by the way, I absolutely love how you incorporated Jesus Paid It All into that song. It's really cool and it sounds awesome the way you guys did it. Um, all the way up to now, the new EP, which is actually dropping tomorrow. This band has written some of the most emotive, deep, and powerful songs. Um, all the while sharing a profound and important message of hope in a way that's not really so often heard. Uh, this past March, the band released its fifth and most recent full length studio release entitled Eulogies, which is an absolutely amazing album, filled also with tracks that are diverse, um, lots of emotion, and really dig deep into self discovery and self confession. With the writing process smack dab in the middle of a global pandemic, it must have been easy to become your own worst enemies. What was the writing process like, and how did COVID, how did COVID affect the process of the writing?
um, it affected it in the fact that it made it difficult for us to get together, which honestly are those are our most creative moments, because I like for all the songs I write the majority of what is the core and heart of the song, the lyrics, vocals, riffs, all that stuff. But when we get together, it's always something very different and special because yeah, we kind of just feed off of each other's energy. And um we did get to do that towards the end of recording as things opened up. But yeah, so that definitely changed the dynamic a little bit. But also, the isolation, it worked in ways that it was an obstacle. It also was a benefit for me because I think
Oh, okay.
it made me approach um, lyric writing differently. Because a lot of times I would write songs off of my experiences and interactions with other people.
Sure. Yep.
Would always have songs that were definitely like introspective, but this record, yeah, just I was really the only person apart from my wife and my kids who I interacted
Yeah.
with. Um, and so I just yeah, I saw that all the songs were kind of coming out first person, and it was good for me. I always felt like it would be selfish, I don't know, to write songs in that way because I always think about our fans and I want to really, I mean, I'm playing music because I love music, but also I want to help people
Sure.
see the truth and the hope of the gospel, but I've also found that the ways in which I've the things that I've struggled with or had to work through or and wrestle with, a lot of people can identify with. And so I just
Absolutely.
decided to have time around. So
Two tracks that really grabbed my attention, really speaking to me on a personal level, were Shadows and Peace That Starts the War. These songs for me are about a deep, dark inner struggle. And as a believer myself, only being able to lean into my faith to get beyond them. Working in healthcare during the main peak of COVID in 2020, I worked in the ICU for about 7 weeks, seeing suffering and death, unfortunately, on a daily basis with no end in sight. I ended up suffering from some PTSD, some anxiety issues that I've never dealt with in my life before. And someone I entrusted implicitly, instead of supporting me, would actually laugh at me and mock what I was going through. What do these songs mean to you personally, and how have they helped you through these truly difficult times?
So Shadows is a song that is about really my crisis of faith. Um you know, it was a time in my life where everything that I had like believed and like like my foundation and my belief system was completely like shaken.
Yeah,
Um
yeah,
and it was really because there wasn't much foundation to begin with. It was pretty shallow. Um and um that song really just sort of catalogs, looking back now, really understanding. I basically just wrote a metaphor looking at it in retrospect.
right, right.
Because like when you're in those moments, you know, if somebody, I wasn't walking around saying like I have a really shallow faith, or I haven't really ever thought about what I actually believe. Nobody
Yeah,
does that, but it's until that's shaken and it's kind of exposed, and you actually see the cracks in the foundation, or you see places you haven't even laid foundation.
absolutely.
Um, and so that's what that song was. I'd heard about Plato's allegory of the cave, and really deals a lot with this idea of belief and truth, and how can we know what's true. And um, I just thought that allegory, that metaphor, was like really interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd seen a painting that somebody actually painted about that allegory, and
Oh,
between knowing the story and seeing the painting, that was like the first time I'd actually ever seen a painting, and it made me want to write a song, and it like opened my eyes to, yeah, like a whole other place of inspiration. Um,
okay.
that was, yeah, that was super cool.
No, that's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that. No Tomorrow is probably the strongest track on the album for me personally. Due to what I've been through the last 2.5 years, I've struggled with my faith due to someone that was supposed to be in a position of compassion, love, and empathy, and instead abused that position by breaking me down instead of building me up, mocked me during some really difficult times, as I had mentioned earlier, and so much more that I won't get into detail here. But in that song, we hear the lyrics, "This overwhelming weight that covers up my eyes is telling me that mercy is a lie that's in disguise. Feel the wings of mercy lift me up and carry me." Well, can you tell us about the inspiration behind this track?
Um, one, I'm sorry that what you went through. That sounds pretty awful. And I
I
know what
appreciate that.
that feels like. Um, yeah. So the the song the song comes from kind of realizing, um yeah, it's sorry, I'm like trying to gather myself a little bit here.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, that song is very, very personal for me too, and it's very heavy.
Yeah.
It's really, when you think about um the reality of kind of who you are, all of your flaws, your mistakes, your guilt, your sin, and like when it kind of piles up on you, it it feels like there's no hope. um and that's where I kind of got this idea of no tomorrow, because when I was trying to find a different way to say no hope, um and if there's no tomorrow, there is no hope, right?
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
However things are presently is how they will be, and that will be the end. um and that's really, sometimes what it feels like to look in the mirror, and you know, when you realize how broken you are. But the song isn't about just that feeling. It's about, you know, the truth of the gospel, and recognizing really this incredible um power that is in the grace that God gives, that he could actually lift that sort of burden from me, and that he did through what Jesus did on the cross.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that I love the idea of the great exchange. It's kind of like this doctrine of, basically, we we all of our sin is given to Christ, and he takes it as if it's his own and pays for it.
Pays for it.
And
Yeah, absolutely,
in
man.
turn, he gives us all of his goodness, and we're like protected by his perfection and his perfect love. And so that's what always gives me such comfort when I think about, um you know really, when I see my brokenness. And
Yeah, yeah.
that's why I always had that imagery that the song kind of revolves around, is this idea of sand. If you were to take a handful of sand, and look at it, you
Yeah.
really fathom how much is in your hand, you know and even that feels like a lot. But this I would often have the imagery that is in that song is literally what I would picture in my head many
Okay.
times.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and that's what it felt like. But knowing the grace of God, and knowing this beautiful weight that's lifted from me, I was like, I need to find a way to communicate this in a song. And I finally was able to on this record. So
Yeah, no, and I think you guys did an absolutely amazing job um, with the way that that song specifically came out. So that's really awesome. Thank you for sharing that personal aspect of
yeah.
it as well. I really appreciate that, man.
Till he appeared and the soul felt its worth. Expected Jesus, grace to set the people free. Set the people free. Sky and free.
So switching gears just a little bit, tomorrow, Friday, November 18th, marks the release of your new EP, Lowborn, um, a release just in time for the holidays. I've been
Mhm.
through the EP several times already, and it's absolutely amazing. As a post-hardcore Christian band, it's great to be able to reach and bring together metal fans, both believers and non-believers alike, with a message of hope. Starting off with the two covers, "Oh Holy Night," which is a new release, and "Come Thou Long Expected Jesus." I absolutely love the arrangements of these two tracks. "Oh Holy Night," here's some slight melodic rhythmic changes that play around with the timing of the original 12/8/6/8 time signatures,
Yeah.
while "Come Thou Long Expected Jesus," adding harsh vocals along with clean vocals, for me adds great juxtaposition to a timeless classic. While "Come Thou Long Expected Jesus" was released years ago, it's absolutely perfect for this EP. What was the writing process like, transforming these two hymns into the fresh, modern hard rock, hard metal arrangements that they've been made into?
So um what I did for Come That Long Expected Jesus was I figured out essentially what key I wanted to sing it in, and then what BPM. And then I I basically mapped out how many bars were kind of in the structure of the song.
Yeah.
And then I tried as best I can to forget about the song. Because I wanted, with that song in particular, I really wanted to I wanted to sound very unlike the original apart from the melody. And so
Absolutely.
I'm sure you could tell from the guitar work. The guitar work is, it's like somewhat intricate. There's a lot going on, and that's really what I wanted to
Yep.
do. Is I wanted the guitar to carry like a whole other new melody. And I knew that if I was thinking too much about the song, I wouldn't create something unique. And so that
Yeah.
was kind of how that song. And yeah, I actually just listened to that song for the first time in a long time, and I was like, oh yeah, all right, this is cool. I kind of forgot that we had done it.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and that was a lot of fun. I remember recording that, um um yeah, back in New Jersey, with my buddy Randy LaBeouf, who we were just geeking out, writing riffs and stuff like that. But
Nice.
and then Oh Holy Night, I actually a few years ago, I don't remember why, like the circumstance, but I ended up needing to drive home Christmas night,
Oh,
um away from my like my wife and my kids, where I was with my in-laws, and I had to drive. For some reason, I had to drive back to our house, which is like 2.5 hours away from my in-laws, and I was at our house all alone Christmas, like late at Christmas night, and I just remember I was like, oh, this kind of sucks. And
yeah, for sure, man.
I was like, I just needed to do something to keep myself busy and take my mind off of it. And I'd always thought Oh Holy Night was like just such a beautiful song.
Yeah. Yep.
It was actually that night, like 2 years ago, that I just started mapping out how I would want to play it or sing it.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so but we just never released it. I recorded it at my home studio, and I remember showing it to the guys, like, oh, that's cool, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we decided to do the EP, I was like, oh, we need to release this song. You know, I realized I had recorded this, and so I was excited to finally have a home for that song, because I really loved the arrangement. I loved trying to make it a little bit like, because the song already has like a dark feel, but like, how could I make it feel more, you know, cinematic, orchestral, give more like push and pull to the emotional elements. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I had a lot of that song.
So The King, also having been released about 10 years ago as a non-album single, finally finds a home on Lowborn as well. With a message like the one captured and delivered on this track, it's impossible to lose its relevance, its passion, and its emotional depth. This song, like the rest of the EP, breaks the norm of what people would expect to hear when relating to Christmas. When it was decided to give this track a home on Lowborn, was it added right from the start of the planning process, or was it something that kind of fell together afterwards?
So we actually we tracked and released that song 10 years ago. We actually retracked it this year for the EP.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. One reason was because of label logistics and who owned the masters, and
right.
the major label that we used to be underneath did not release the masters to us. And so we were like coming down to the wire, and that song was not going to be on the EP. And I was like, no chance. I was like, can we re-record it? They're like, yeah, go ahead.
That's
so
awesome.
literally, cool. You know, 4 days, we just like quickly went and got everything recorded. And so really the plan is, you know, we released The King 10 years ago, and then we did Come Thou Long Expected Jesus. And then for like 8 years, we didn't release any other Christmas music. And I always wanted to, but I was always so busy, you know, working on other stuff that I never had time. And really the goal with the EP is we want to put out the EP, and the goal is we want to add to it, hopefully every year. That's the goal.
Cool.
So nice. That's like an open-ended EP. And awesome. So we thought it would be cool to add all the other songs that we have done. And, you know, maybe we'll do like one cover, like every other year it'll be a cover and original, I don't know, but we'll see what happens.
Is another great example of breaking the norm while sharing messages of redemption. For me, standard songs about Christmas, especially those that are over commercialized, tend to lose genuine feeling and emotion. Dark Cold Night, however, for me, sees a genuine, emotive, and beautiful message about redemption in a dark world. What are some of the challenges you and the band face when writing a song with such deep meaning, while writing it in a way that goes against the normal, uh, I guess you could say, the normal flow of things?
So I think there's two challenges. One, I think some people could probably tend to think it's lame to write a quote unquote Christmas song. Um, I kind of like hate the idea of calling it a Christmas song,
Yeah.
because we wouldn't want to make music that could only be listened to, one time out of the year. And so that's why when
Yeah.
with our we really wanted to kind of have elements of what we think kind of fit that feeling and sort of like the overarching message, but at the same time it still be us. Because you know how like Christmas music or holiday music in general has a very distinct sound. Like
Yeah.
there's a degree
Yep.
that like I don't like that. And so it's like we thought like, what if we just kind of made our own brand of it and normalize it to the point that if people are into Christmas, they'll listen to it. If they're not, they can still listen to it and be like, oh, this is a cool song.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that was the challenge. Time will tell if we have succeeded.
That's cool. With the exception of Dark Cold Night, the entire EP sees tracks whose time signatures are in multiples of three, whether 3/4, Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, 12/8, and 6/8, and like on A Holy Night, etc. With this being a Christmas EP release, was this done intentionally?
No, it's actually that's part of the sound.
Yeah.
Of the Christmas Christmas songs in general, having that waltz. And I think that's what made when I wrote the music to Lowborn, that's what made me feel like there was something about it that felt like it had that sort of waltzy vibe to it, but also still sounding kind of like a classic, metal song with a kind of classic metal type riff.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, honestly, writing heavy music in 3/4 is very difficult because if you know anything about music, you get locked into a lot of rhythms and patterns that can be very redundant.
Yeah. Yep.
There's part of me that I try to pick and choose my battles. I'll like if I write something in 3/4, I got to step away from a while and not do it so that I can look at it with like fresh ears and fresh eyes.
For sure.
So that I'm not just recycling a lot of the same sort of things that can come out of that. And the King is actually a song I wrote that's older than the band. I wrote that before the band even started.
Oh, cool. Nice.
And it's obvious that I didn't really care or think about. There's like tempo changes and time signature changes in the song. It all works together. If you were to look at it critically, you might think it was a little schizophrenic, but that was because I was probably 19 or 18 years old when I wrote it. So
yeah. All right, so changing gears again, this past summer was pretty busy for you guys, as you were touring in support of Memphis May Fire. How was that tour?
it was great. Yeah, probably one of the best tours we've ever done. So it was awesome.
That's cool. Nice. And lastly, are there any plans for a headlining tour in support of Eulogies?
Yeah, we would like to. We were actually planning to do that this year, but we got the offer to go out with Memphis, and it was a long run, so it didn't make sense for us to do any headline dates later in the year because we had a number of spots. We're doing Captor's 10-year anniversary show actually in a week, Saturday. Nothing for this year, but next year, we're definitely thinking about that, and would like to, ideally we would rather support bands on tour, but we're not worried about going out and headlining either. It is fun to get to do that and longer set, but it is a lot more work.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. So, Steve Cobucci from Wolves at the Gate, thank you so much for taking the time today for this chat. And For those listening, be sure to check out Lowborn, releasing tomorrow via Solid State Records. Steve, thanks so much again for your time. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Have a good night. Take care.
See ya.
Thanks again, Steve. I really appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, take care.
All right, see ya.